Good afternoon and welcome to the latest edition of the Stargate Sci-fi Cult Classics documentary. I'm delighted this evening to be joined by the one and only Vanessa Angel, who played the role of Freya and Anise in Stargate SG1. And I suppose, Vanessa, Stargate SG1, does it almost feel like it's two decades, 3 decades
It
ago?
is. It's 20 years ago. It was 2000. It was the year 2000 that I went to do that. So can't believe this. It's time fly. It's scary when you think about it. Actually, like 20 years has gone by since I did that. That's crazy. Yeah.
And I suppose, Vanessa, at the time were you sort of a young, sort of budding, sort of an actress? Were you based in around Vancouver at the time? And were you sort of aware that the Stargate project was up there? And did you go and try out straight away in the first season for various roles, or was it the second or third season that you tried out for your part?
I think it was I in the second or third season? It was early on, and I had actually MGM produced Stargate, and I had done Kingpin, which was also produced by MGM. So I remember the TV department at MGM wanted to sit and talk to me, and they wanted to see like in whatever TV programs they had going on, like where I could maybe fit in. And they had this role in Stargate coming up, so they thought I would be really right for that character. And I did actually go in and well, they basically offered it to me, but I did sort of do a reading, I think, just for the because I was in LA and they were in Vancouver, and they just wanted to sort of see how I would handle the material. But they basically sort of wanted to find a place to fit me in somehow, and this seemed like a good fit. So yeah, and then I literally went up to Vancouver, and I remember that literally I get off the flight, and they take me to wardrobe, and they fit me in all those crazy costumes, beautiful costumes, beautifully made costumes, by the way. But they're really hard to get in and out of. Like the one with the sort of pants with the lace up side and the crop top with the, I mean, that literally took 20 minutes to get in and out of. I mean, I needed help. And yes, like if you want to like run to the restroom, it was really problematic. So yeah, so and then I just sort of jumped right in, and everybody was so nice. It was, kind of a well-oiled machine at that point. Like it was, with TV, you always have to, you're always cognizant of time, and you always have to get your certain amount of pages done a day. And, you kind of feel this sense of pressure to get it done. And, it's a big cast, and uh, but it was great. It was actually a very challenging job to do, because the dialogue for Tok'ra is very specific, and it's actually very hard dialogue to learn, because it's not really the way I would generally speak, or a regular person would speak. So it was almost like learning almost like another language in a way, just in terms of like having to retain the dialogue. It was challenging.
And I suppose, Vanessa, yours was a sort of a recurring role as well. So, in terms of that, did you do your multiple episodes at a time while you're up there in Vancouver, or was it a case that you
Yes.
did 2 episodes and then you came back and another time for 2 or 3 months later and did another episode, or did you do all the episodes the one time when you were up there?
I did all the episodes at one time. I was up there for about a month, maybe a little over. I think they shot one episode in about 7 or 8 working days. So I think I was there for about 5 weeks. And there was talk about bringing me back, actually, to bring my character back, but they were kind of still figuring out which direction to go in, I think, in terms of like the love storyline, because Amanda and Rich Dean Anderson's character kind of like during that third episode that I did, they kind of like started to build a sort of story where they were going to be together. But there was talk about me coming back, and then I actually I have a 19-year-old daughter, and I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter during that same year. So it wouldn't have really worked for me to have those costumes on and pregnant belly. So I think it was meant for me to just do those 3 episodes, but I had a great time. And I've done so many conventions and met so many fans from this job, essentially, that it's just like a gift that keeps on giving. Like literally, like I was in England last year doing a Stargate convention in Telford, and you actually get to really meet the fans in those smaller conventions, and it's just great knowing that there's this massive community that just loves this show and follows it, and that it means so much to them, and that the fact that I'm a small part of that is really lovely.
And I suppose, Vanessa, growing up, were you a bit of a sci-fi girl? Were you a bit of a sci-fi teenager? Did you watch the sci-fi genre?
I watched Doctor Who. I did watch Doctor Who. My dad used to love that show, but I wouldn't say I was like a massive sci-fi fan. Really. I wasn't like into Star Wars in the 70s or, as a kid. I mean, I've since kind of, as later on, I kind of looked at those, but like at the time when I was a kid, other than Doctor Who, I kind of gravitated more towards comedy and, I don't know, drama. But I mean, since then, I do like sci-fi, but I wouldn't say that it's like my absolute favorite genre, but I do appreciate it, and the stories and the I mean, Stargate was so well written. I mean, it's beautifully constructed show, and really top quality people involved. So I think it's a, very intelligent show, which, you need to pay attention. It's not like a sort of fluff show where you can just watch it, with your mind on other things.
And I suppose, Vanessa, when the original Stargate movie came out in 1995 with Kirk Douglas and Vader, did you actually see that movie at the time?
I did. Yeah, I did. And actually, Mili Avital is in that movie, and I did a movie with her a few years after that, called Kissing a Fool, and I got to meet her, and I don't know, maybe she was the beautiful girl in the movie, beautiful young girl, and she was great. But yeah, I did see the movie, and I loved it. Yeah.
So you were aware of Stargate when the opportunity came around.
Oh, yes.
So in terms of probably researching for the role, obviously you got cast in your role. Did you actually watch a few episodes of the original season just to get a feel of characters? And what was your initial reaction to that, obviously?
I mean, I thought it was beautifully done and very complex, and the storylines were really compelling. And I wanted to see how the Tokrus, because, obviously they have a symbiote and a host, and I wanted to see, I wasn't quite sure how to navigate that kind of going between the two characters, essentially. So, I mean, anytime you're playing two different, I mean, to me, it was sort of almost like an alter ego, like it's like a split personality, except it's in the sense of the Tokrus. So I kind of approached it like that. And obviously, Anise is, more left brain, and Freya was more right brain. That's kind of how I approached it.
And Vanessa, what was your opinion arriving on set the first day in terms of the sets they had in the lot in terms of Stargate SG1? Were you sort of blown away in terms of the fine detail and how quick they could take down a set and resemble a new one straight away and put them up?
Yes, I mean the set especially with the big Stargate on it was great. I mean, they had beautiful stages, and I mean it was a very it was a top-notch production in that sense. Everybody had some nice trailers, and the production office was great, and they were close by, and the stages were. I mean, I'm always amazed. I did a show at Universal Studios for 4 years, and they literally changed the sets like every few days. And it was always amazed me how they could construct these like entire rooms and, in like a few hours. It's amazing.
I suppose, Vanessa, in terms of the cast, in terms of your appearing in Stargate SG1, I suppose the big sort of name that was the starline name was Richard Dean Anderson. Obviously, Doug Michael Shanks Stargate made it for him and Amanda Taffy. Christopher Judge was a coming, aspiring sort of actor, but obviously the resume and the body work, Richard Dean Anderson. And how do you find being on set with Richard Dean Anderson? Do you have any sort of interactions with him or memories of him?
A wonderful person, like one of the nicest actors that you'll ever work with, like just so sweet and kind of fun. Like he's not like a drama guy, you know what I mean? In terms of like, he doesn't like create intentions, and like he just has a very, kind of a fun, low-key attitude, and it's really important when the lead of a show, whatever their temperament is, kind of like, goes into the rest of the vibe of the set. So when you have a great lead like that, it makes the job so much easier, and it just makes the production go smoother. But he's just a lovely person.
And I suppose, Vanessa, one thing that struck me by talking to so many people was how slick, in terms of the production Stargate, that many shots and scenes only took maybe one take, that after a while it was bang, bang, bang. There wasn't several sort of takes, or it was so, everyone sort of was in tune and in gig with the thing, that it was so smooth in terms of shooting, that it seemed to be like everything was done to a T, that there was no real takes or several takes in terms of episode. Everything was nearly got in the first take.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're doing TV, you're running against the clock. So if you can get it in the first take, you usually only get a second take if something, didn't go well in the first take. But TV is always kind of quicker like that. But they would, certainly, I mean, I remember when I was, I think particularly doing Anise's dialogue, sometimes it was complicated. So I would have to do 2 or 3 takes, which I found frustrating sometimes, just because just retaining the dialogue was hard for me. I don't know why. It was just like, it really, like those moments where like, it was really like I had to sort of like get my head around almost like a completely different way to speak. So, yeah.
And I suppose, Vanessa, what was your reaction for the first time you saw your takes back, with the enhancements that were made in terms of your voice, in terms of the goals?
It was,
Pokra, I mean, in terms of that sort of thing.
It was weird.
Was it weird? Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird to hear that kind of computerized voice. Yeah, because I would obviously just say the dialogue, and then I did that in post. And yeah, it obviously it's. I mean, after I heard it the first time, I got used to it. But it's definitely different. Definitely different.
And I suppose, Vanessa, as you mentioned there before we came on air, in terms of your background here in terms of Great Britain and stuff like that. So you're probably more than aware how far Stargate has traveled globally, all over the world, in terms of how many TV stations it showed on, how many times it's dubbed into sort of different languages, and all over the world, in Spanish, German, sort of Italian. So sometimes you get sort of surprised sometimes when people, we have fans maybe sending you comments from places like Malaysia or Singapore.
Yes, so many from there. And in fact, I've been on Facebook for a while, and I have more followers on Facebook, and that seems to reach like all over the world. And I think a lot of, Asia, like a lot of people, a lot of fans from there that love that show. And on Instagram, less so. If Instagram, I get more like messages from Russia and Mexico and like some countries like that. But like Facebook is amazing. Like it's like everybody. It reaches every like little nook and cranny of the world, it seems like, and it's amazing how popular that show is. It's And I was on Baywatch for a few episodes too, and that show is also like globally like really known. So it's great to be able to connect with like people from across the world. And it's I mean, I'm not like a huge social media fan, but like it is one of the better aspects of it. I think that you can have this kind of connection to people that are like-minded, and and that you're miles away but yet you're connected in this way. So,
and I suppose, Vanessa, in terms of Stargate SG1, obviously a TV series, you mentioned your connections with MGM, and I suppose the TV series came out afterwards, a spin-off, Stargate Atlantis. Were you approached about that by any chance?
No, I wasn't actually. No, that was like I I wasn't approached about that.
And Vanessa, in terms of Stargate and being involved in such a production, in terms of Stargate SG1 and Sci-fi production, is it always a little girl's dream, obviously, growing up to venture into that sort of fantasy world, that sort of alien sort of encounters, different sort of worlds, playing that sort of thing? And in terms of your acting roles, have you done anything similar before that or even after that?
Well, I did a TV show in the early 90s called Weird Science, and that was very fantasy based. It was based on the movie Weird Science. I don't know if you had it in Ireland, but it was, I played a genie essentially. So there was every episode, these two kind of teenage boys want me to grant a wish, and they're usually like some fantastical thing. So I did have some experience doing that. And I mean, yeah, as a kid, I mean, I started doing school plays as a kid, and I always, and it's funny now because I look back on my life, and I never really realized actually quite how much like of a fantasy mindset I live in. It's like I really like in this year particularly, I don't know, because of the pandemic and everything's sort of like all your distractions get diminished. And I really realized like I have like a really highly vivid imagination. And I think that really, that's probably why I'm an actor. I mean, I know everybody has an imagination, but like to be able to sort of take that and step into the fantasy of being somebody else, essentially, especially if it's a character that is so different from anyone that you've ever met, or, a real life character that, you really do have to bring in some of that fantasy mindset into that.
And Vanessa, you mentioned about Stargate and your episodes of being in Stargate. And obviously, you mentioned it was 20 years ago. Do you actually, when Stargate comes on the sort of TV, are you sort of looking out? Maybe is this the episode when you're at home sometimes and you're flicking through the channels and you see this?
No, I don't really like watching myself.
You think
I'd watch the episodes that I wasn't in, but I don't really like. It's really hard to watch yourself because I'm always like, I could have done that better. Or I'm very critical of myself, so I tend to not watch my things once they're done. And the interesting thing about shooting is that the experience of actually shooting something is different than the actual end product. So there's productions I've done which were so fun to shoot and just an amazing experience, but then the actual movie or TV show, whatever it is you're doing, isn't that great. And the opposite, like I've done projects that are very tense and people are like getting on each other's nerves and it's stressful, and then the project turns out beautifully. So it's sometimes both happen. Sometimes it's a great experience and the project turns out beautifully. So it's quite, that's the interesting part of being an actor. I think that I tend to remember the experience of shooting more than appreciating the finished product in a way.
And I suppose, Vanessa, you mentioned at the time being in Stargate SG1 in terms of you had a little rival along the way, and in terms of that sort of came. In terms of growing up, is she aware that her mother was on a sort of Stargate, and does she actually see the episode, or a friend talk to her and say, was your mother on Stargate? So do you actually hear it in terms of her school friends and everything?
No, she's 19 and she's a basketball player. Actually, she's at USC which is a college in Southern California. And no, she gives me no credit at all. She's like, she thinks that, I don't know. It's like, I think if I was Emma Watson, she'd be like really like proud of me. But she's never watched Stargate, to be honest. Although she's only 19, so she just hasn't sort of gone into that sci-fi world yet. Although she was a big Harry Potter fan, but no, she's not. I would not say she's a champion of me and my work in Stargate. She hasn't seen it, to be honest. So, but she, it's like, I think that I'm kind of lame to my own family. It's like to someone who's not around me all the time. It may be different, but yeah. So.
And I suppose Vanessa, in terms of playing that character Anise and Freya, let's say there was a sort of a spin-off series or something to do with the sort of the Japanation and Teague's character or something like that. If the opportunity, if MGM came to you and said, would you like to revise that role in a different sort of story?
Yes. Yeah, please bring it on.
I
would definitely love that.
You'd be interested in.
Oh yes.
I think obviously being involved in the show that in terms of what they did, I know they did roughly 10 seasons of Stargate SG1 and Stargate Atlantis different. Do you think there's opportunities for more spin-offs series in the works now? It's been a long time since the last Stargate sort of sci-fi sort of off-world experience. They went, I suppose, in terms of the Battlestar Galactica route in terms of Stargate Universe, which wasn't really as successful as the previous two. It probably took away from the whole experience of what Stargate was. It probably tried to mimic Battlestar Galactica. I suppose if you go up against Battlestar Galactica, you're going to come out second best, as the saying goes, in terms of that iconic sort of franchise. So do you think there's more opportunities for them to diverse into other sort of areas?
I think there's always opportunity if you have enough creative people behind it figuring out how to do it. I mean, now it's like people are doing reboots though of shows that were only like 20 years ago, like literally like a reboot of the original. But in terms of continuing with that cast, I don't know. That's usually kind of tricky. It depends where everyone. I can't imagine Richard Dean Anderson would want to do another run at it. Who knows though? I don't know where he's at in his life right now, but it's hard to get like an entire cast back. But you know, who knows? You never say never. I mean, it would be great. I don't know.
And I suppose, Vanessa, before I let you go, I suppose the last question to sort of finish off this sort of interview. Let's pretend your character, you probably have to give me two answers for this now, because there's two characters in it. But let's pretend your character, Anise and Freya, were in a Stargate encyclopedia, a sort of dictionary as such. And they left two blank sentences underneath their description. And they asked you, Vanessa Angel, having played those two characters, to write those two sentences, summarize them up. What would you like those two sentences to read?
I think that Anise and Freya were very intense, intelligent, and slightly conflicted within each other in a sense. To me, like I said earlier, I feel like it was like a split. I kind of like to think of the Toker as a split personality in terms of, you know, one has a strength in certain areas and the other had a strength in other areas. And so it's kind of marrying those two parts of oneself together, if that makes sense. Like to me, it's like a, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, when you talk about your shadow side. So I kind of approached it more like that, I think. And that's not really answering your question very well. That wasn't very concise. Sorry.
Vanessa, it is a fine description. Vanessa Angel, thanks for taking the time to speak to us today to relive your memories of playing Anise and Freya in Stargate SG1. And no doubt, speaking to you beforehand, trip to Ireland is definitely on the cards. And hopefully,
yes.
Time you'll visit to see what the west coast of Ireland has.
Yes, I would love that. When travel opens up again, I will definitely like to do that. So, yeah. Well, yeah. Great talking to you, and Merry Christmas, and wishing you a better year next year than this year was, I'm sure.
Sure, Vanessa. Hopefully we'll speak to you again sometime in the near future. Yeah. But take care.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.